Hello again, and welcome to my next masterclass. I'm going to be talking to you about two-point perspective and going a bit bigger for this tutorial, and I'm using an A4 size. It's the Aquarelle Watercolor Sketchbook from Rhodia Touch, which is spiral bound, which is really useful, and it's a cold pressed paper, but it's quite thick, 300 grams, so it's a really sturdy paper. So next up, two-point perspective. Two-point perspective is really useful if you're drawing buildings or the corners of things, also really good for interior sketching. So the basic difference between one and two-point perspective is that we have two vanishing points. We're still on the eye level, we still have our eye level line. You can see from the sketch that I'm looking at the corner of the building. The angles that are going away from us are going to different vanishing points. Another example, so here if we look at a photograph, this is a building called the Municipal Buildings in Liverpool in the United Kingdom. It's now being converted into a 5-star hotel. This to me is a really strong image that we can use as a reference for two-point perspective, because everything here is going down to a vanishing point somewhere over here, and the same on this side. So just to sort of show in principle, so if we have our eye level line, and then rather than having that central vanishing point, what we actually have, so if I'm looking at this, I would really want to strike this line. And if I'm looking again at the scale of the building, it's not quite 2/3 a third, but it's sort of getting on that way. So I would probably take the line sort of about here. And then, as we know, if we're standing outside that building, we are really low. Our eye level, thinking of the size of us, is way down here. So we've got a certain amount below eye level and quite a lot more above. And so what I would actually do, if I just draw that in a stronger pen, I would sort of map out those key points. And this, the sort of detailed ornamental wall, is pretty much on the flat, which means it's pretty much, I would suggest, at eye level. So then we've got something around here, so that's a really important junction. We've got something, the cornice, all this beautiful detailing. It's going up a bit higher. And then we've got the sort of roof, the top of it. So this is going back, and I can use my pencil to actually take the line back. So I know it's going back somewhere over here. Again, I'm actually drawing in pencil. I'm using a Rhodia mechanical pencil here that's really got a lovely grip to it. And interestingly, our vanishing point with two-point perspective can be really slightly irritating, because often it goes off the page. So technically, if I was to look at that, the vanishing point is somewhere over there. So here we are, sort of going off the page. But we can see it's at a sharper angle this side of the page, so for this elevation. So it's actually going back at a slightly different angle. And then from here, I can just start, to flesh out very loosely, how the building is going back to these different vanishing points. Quite nice to draw in pencil as well for a change. This is actually watercolor paper, but it's really smooth, so it's taking the pencil really well, and it would take pen really well as well. So we know that's going to go up slightly to that sort of point somewhere. That's quite interesting. So again, if you're still sort of struggling to get the gist of the perspective, this gable here will be going back to that vanishing point over there. So that line, you can't really tell because it's such a small bit of wall, but it's going back to over there. If we take that down again, then we know we've got sort of all these different sort of cornicings and things going on. Really exciting, nice things happening there. Then we've got that big bit of, again, this is only a sort of a quick sketch just so you can see what and then we've got our really elegant tower. So again, that's going off. I mean, that should be seen really as a point, but again, it's just a very loose demo. We've got our tower, it's going back. So that's going this way, that's going back that way. It's going higher. There's always that point that might sort of go off the page, but never mind. And then we pick up the lower bit, and then we have that bit of wall. That's going back to over there. So things like these beautiful roofs, I just do that from my eye. You know, what can I see? Flagpole. You know, we've got statues. You know, obviously we can start to fill in the windows and all the various things that are happening. But in principle, that gives you, so then we've got here, so we've got something, it's just very, very gradual. It's below our eye line. You know, if we were to draw the road, this Water Street, the roads are sort of doing that, going back. Yeah, probably not got quite enough height for my tower, but then we've got our different floors. You know, if we have more time, we could start to put the windows on. Just one tip that I find really useful, when you're looking at view, when you do use two-point perspective, sometimes it can be hard to get those angles. So if we're looking, so it's really, you know, I started off with this as a key vertical, but perhaps if we're looking at that point or that point, and I just find this really fun. This is just something that somebody told me once, and I've shared it when I'm doing sketching demos. When I look at those angles, a really fun way of looking, trying to work, if you're looking at them and you just can't quite work out what the angle is, if you think about that as a clock face, what time is that angle at? It looks like about 20 to 4 to me. Or is it 20 past 8? The same with that. That looks a bit sharper. And it will be sharper because the perspective is more severe because we're higher up. So that's about two-point perspective. And actually, I've shared that drawing because I've actually drawn this not in my usual style. But this was a drawing that I actually did for the hotel, and I'd actually concentrated because I was really interested in the entrance. But when the client actually looked at the drawing, he was very upset because he wanted to see the tower. So that's why I had to join them both together. Actually, they're not quite, they do line up. You know, that is an architectural illustration, and it's very much drawn, you know, it is a two-point perspective. And for that, my vanishing points, I mean, if I hold my lines down, they're probably about 20 centimetres or so off the edge of what is A3 paper. But it is a really good, it's, you know, if you're drawing an existing, a really elegant or decorative building, it's just a really good way of drawing, of really capturing all the detail. But it just takes longer to work out than simply using a one-point perspective.